Everyone carries a wound that they did not choose, but I truly believe that that wound was meant to awaken us. What if that part of you that hurts is actually your medicine? Hi, I'm Key. I'm the Chiron Guide, and I help people heal through astrology using the wisdom of Chiron in your birth chart. In today's video, I'm going to share a little bit about Chiron and the archetype of the wounded healer and how you can turn your pain into wisdom. So, Chiron was a planetoid that was discovered in 1977 between Uranus and Saturn. And also in Greek mythology, Chiron was a centaur known as the wounded healer. He could heal everyone but himself. He was born half man and half horse and rejected at birth. And during his life, he was hit with a poison arrow that was not meant for him. And although he was immortal, he was unable to heal everyone but himself. Chiron became a guide for teachers and heroes, teaching them music, medicine, and so much more. Although Chiron's pain never disappeared, he was able to turn that pain into wisdom. Chiron teaches us that sometimes what we cannot heal within ourselves, we can heal within others. So, switching gears a little bit, I do want to mention Carl Jung. So, Carl Jung was a Swiss psychiatrist and he studied the unconscious, archetypes, and the path to wholeness. Carl Jung realized the same in psychology, that you really are your own healer and that within the wound you will find wisdom and the ability to heal yourself. Carl Jung believed that healing yourself really came from looking at yourself in the mirror and sitting with your pain and learning how to turn that into wisdom and not running from it. When we sit with our shadow selves and the parts that we do hide, they become a doorway to healing and wisdom. And you really cannot transform yourself if you're constantly running from your wounds. The wisdom of Carl Jung and the wisdom of Chiron, the wounded healer, really teach us that integration is the pathway to healing ourselves. So, Chiron lives in everyone's birth chart. So, if you pull up your birth chart, you will see that you have 12 houses and 12 signs. And I'll put the symbol of Chiron up here on the screen. So, what you want to look for in your birth chart, it looks like a key and kind of like a K with an O at the bottom. So, check for that in your birth chart. And that's really going to show you what pain points you may have experienced during your lifetime. So, for example, my Chiron is in the fifth house in Gemini. So, my wounds are around creativity, self expression, and romance, and really speaking up and using my voice. But I'm working with that wound by showing up here on YouTube and social media and other places and working with my clients to turn their pain into wisdom. I do want to make very clear that although you may have a wound in your birth chart, you can also have wounds outside of your birth chart. So, knowing where your Chiron is really a cheat code to working with your pain and turning that into wisdom, and maybe coupling that with any pain points that you have in your waking life. So, I want to make clear that you do not need astrological proof to know what hurts. And for me, learning where my Chiron was in my chart at a very young age really helped me to learn how to work with my voice and work with my creativity and name what I might be experiencing. It's also healing in a sense. Any experiences that I've had as an adult or child and being able to point that back to my birth chart makes me feel like, wow, I'm not crazy. This is in my birth chart. I'll share a little bit about my journey with Chiron. So, I've been reading astrology books for as long as I can remember. To my millennials out there, I don't know if you remember sitting at checkout with your parents at the grocery store and picking up those little astrology books and reading about what's to come for your sign or anyone else's sign. It was just fun. And so the older I got, the deeper I stepped into astrology and wanting to learn more about myself. Essentially, I felt like it was a cheat code. I've had many astrology readings. I have even studied my own chart. And it wasn't until I was working in a job role that was not a good fit. And I'm so glad that I had that experience. So, in this particular job, I was very tense. The phone was always ringing. And it was just a very uncomfortable experience. And I did go to therapy to seek some extra help to see what is going on within me. And then I thought to myself, let me take another look at my birth chart. Let me revisit my Chiron placement to see what can this tell me. And so when I rediscovered exactly where my Chiron is and that my Chiron wound is linked to my voice, creativity, and speaking up, my mind blew open once again. And the thing about astrology, and especially working with your birth chart, there are so many things that you will constantly discover about yourself. When it comes to astrology, you have to give yourself permission to keep learning because there is so much information out there and so many ways to read charts. But once I rediscovered my Chiron again and took a look at it, I was thinking to myself, this makes so much sense. So essentially, to me, Chiron feels like a cheat code. And back to the astrology readings that I have had, while they were great and very helpful, I found them to be overwhelming to only have an hour to look at my chart, which is what encouraged me to become more well versed in astrology. The reason why I focus on Chiron with my clients is because we have 75 minutes together to focus on your Chiron and other aspects in your birth chart as well, but just 75 minutes together to talk about the past a little bit, the present, and what you want your future to look like. And I feel like Chiron is such a great starting point because essentially Chiron is going to radiate throughout the rest of your birth chart. And so for me, receiving a full astrology session was overwhelming. So I took that information and centered my sessions around Chiron because it feels more accessible and approachable from my experience with my clients. And then from there, they're able to learn about their pain, turn that into wisdom, and slowly learn about the rest of their birth chart. What I do want to make clear about Chiron and the wounded healer and finding your wound in your birth chart, I encourage you not to go on this self improvement binge. Okay. I've done it. And I never recommend that to my clients. And I always remind them that finding your wound in your birth chart is not about fixing it, it's about sitting with it. It's about looking in the mirror and being present with it, no matter how ugly it is. It's about self awareness and really remembering who you are. Discovering your Chiron wound is also about realizing any gifts that you might have and thinking about how can you turn this pain into wisdom. And you may not have that answer right away. It is a never ending journey. I've had several client sessions where a couple of months later, they will let me know, wow, I've discovered what my gift is. This is exactly what I should be doing. So when you find your Chiron, give yourself grace. It may upset you, but I really encourage you to journal and really think about what could your wound be trying to teach you. After you discover your wound, I encourage you to really sit with it. And I will share kind of a 4-part journey that I take my clients through once we discover their Chiron wound. The first step is to awaken the wound and realize that it exists and don't run from it. Shame will naturally arise. Allow yourself to sit with those emotions and say hello. The second part of this journey is to understand the wound and the roots that it took in your life. That can be a childhood, that could be in high school, whatever it is, just understanding where it may have come from and where it may have popped up in your life. The next step is to really integrate that wisdom and finding the lesson beneath it and allowing your Chiron story to kind of breathe and reflect. You don't need to find a story right away. You don't need to awaken everything right away. Take it slow because it could really be an eye opener. And for my clients, sometimes it could bring you to tears because the wound can be something that you didn't realize you were living with for so long. And years later, it's actually rising to the surface. So give yourself some time to integrate that wisdom once you make that self discovery. And the last step is sharing that medicine and thinking about how you can turn this pain into wisdom. And I encourage you not to obsess over it, but think of it as a journey. Maybe looking at any interests that you've had over the years and maybe finding wisdom and medicine in your interests. That's definitely where I started. And as you embark on this journey, I want to remind you that every step towards awareness and forgiveness is a step towards wholeness. One of the many things I encourage all of my clients to do is journal and using that as a tool for self reflection. So once you find your Chiron, I really encourage you to tune in and See what's there. Become an investigator of your own life. I do have a journal prompt for you that you can tune into whenever you are ready. And I really encourage you to maybe close your eyes and place a hand over your heart, taking a couple deep breaths in through your nose and out of your mouth. And the prompt I have for you is, what parts of myself are ready to be seen? What parts of myself are ready to be seen? And once you have that answer, feel free to just let it flow, resist the urge to edit, and just write freely and see what comes to the surface. I hope that you found this journal prompt helpful. And I want to remind you that Carl Jung and Chiron remind us that our wound is not our weakness, it is our wisdom. If you are feeling called to explore your Chiron story in more depth, I offer my most popular and signature session called Wounded Healer Sessions, where we spend 75 minutes together decoding your Chiron story, and not just your Chiron placement, but your actual story. After our 75 minutes together, you do receive a Chiron report, which outlines everything that we've spoken about. I also recommend tools that you can use on your journey. I make book recommendations as well as journal prompts to help you work with everything that we discussed and to get you started or restarted on your journey of self discovery and to figure out what exactly is my wound? Where is there wisdom? Does that mean more money, a change of a career? This wounded healer session is not about spitting a bunch of astrological jargon your way. It's really about having a conversation. Where are you hurting? Where is it in your chart? How can we turn that pain into wisdom? And how can we help you begin to transform your life? We'll also explore any patterns that may be going on in your life and create any rituals or support you need to integrate on your healing journey. Because let's face it, this healing journey is a lot. It is not linear. It is a bunch of zigzags and scribbles, and it can feel like a lot sometimes. So, I do realize that a lot of you are new to my work, and some of you are new to Chiron and the Wounded Healer. So, in a future video, I will be going through Chiron through the houses and through the signs so that you can piece together what your Chiron story is. In the description of this video, I do want to say that I do have a new offering called the Wound and Anxiety. And that is a 21-minute session that is recorded. You can find more information below, and it is a talk from me about Chiron and the wounded healer archetype. And it's also about anxiety, because what I'm finding in a lot of client sessions, there is a lot of anxiety between the unknown and your wound. And again, your wound that lives inside of your chart and outside of your chart. So in the wound and anxiety, you will receive a talk from me and a guided meditation session, as well as a workbook to work with your Chiron and your wound. And also in this workbook is Chiron through the signs and Chiron through the houses. So if you are interested in that, you can visit the link below in the description. Again, it's called The Wound and Anxiety. And also, I want to beef this channel up with more videos to help you guys learn more about your Chiron and to support you on your healing journey. So if there is anything you want to know, any topics that you would find helpful, as it relates to your healing journey, Chiron, or astrology, please let me know in the comments and I will do my best to make those videos for you. Again, I'm Key, the Chiron Guide, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.